Hello, welcome to World News Updates. This is Sanchana. President Joe Biden accused the Republican Party of undermining the U.S. military by allowing Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville to block more than 300 U.S. military appointments over the Pentagon's abortion policy.
Thank you. The Republican Party used to always support the military, but today they're undermining the military. The senior senator from Alabama, who claims to support our troops, is now blocking more than 300 military operations with his extreme political agenda. Like General C.Q. Brown, F-16 pilot and a wing commander, the first African American to lead any branch of the armed service, to be the next chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That's who I've nominated. He's waiting. Admiral Lisa Franchetti, the second woman in our Navy ever to achieve the rank of 4-star admiral, who I chose to make history again as the first woman as Chief of Naval Operations. I've also nominated other outstanding leaders of all backgrounds. We need them. This partisan freeze is already harming military readiness, security leadership, and troop morale. Freezing pay, freezing people in place. Military families already sacrificed so much, unsure of where or when they change stations, unable to get housing. Thank you. The Republican Party used to always support the military, but today they're under.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin have arrived in Brisbane to hold annual meetings with their Australian counterparts. Blinken also visited a company making EV chargers.
Looking here, thanks.
Can I just welcome our friends, the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defence here to Australia, and to say that this AusMin meeting comes at a very important time. The relationship between Australia and the United States has never been stronger. It comes at a time of strategic competition in our region. Australia and the United States are working together to promote security, stability and prosperity in our region.
You heard Secretary General Guterres of the United Nations saying we've moved from global warming to global boiling. That only emphasizes how important this is, how imperative it is, how urgent it is. But it all comes down to being able to have the technology to make it work commercially.
Looking here, thanks.
Can I just welcome our friends, the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defence here to Australia, and to say that this AusMin meeting comes at a very important time. The relationship between Australia and the United States has never been stronger. It comes at a time of strategic competition in our region. Australia and the United States are working together to promote security, stability and prosperity in our region.
Very nice to see you. Morning. Pleasure to meet you, Mr. You heard Secretary General Guterres of the United Nations saying we've moved from global warming.
Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson is extremely worried about the consequences if more demonstrations go ahead in which the Koran is discredited, he said on Thursday amid growing Muslim anger and steady attacks on Islam's holy book.
On June the 28th this year, two men stood outside a mosque in the Swedish capital, Stockholm, and set fire to a Koran. The book was the latest incident of Islam's holy text being burned in the country. Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson said on Thursday he was extremely worried about the consequences if more such demonstrations go ahead. He told Swedish news agency TT that demonstrations against the Koran burning have been staged in a number of countries. On Monday, thousands took to the streets in Yemen, holding up copies of the Muslim holy text and denouncing Sweden and Denmark. Rules on freedom of speech in both countries mean that burning the Koran is legal, though both governments have said they deplore the act. On Saturday, thousands in the Iraqi capital, Baghdad, also demonstrated. That came after a man set fire to a book purported to be the Koran on a square across from the Iraqi, Egyptian and Turkish embassies in Copenhagen. Sweden's embassy in the city was stormed and set ablaze by protesters last week who were angered by a planned Koran burning. Turkey has also publicly condemned the burnings and could create a diplomatic issue for Sweden, whose application for NATO membership Ankara can still veto. Stockholm struck a deal with Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan earlier this month at a NATO meeting in Lithuania. Sweden has accused other countries, such as Russia, of manipulating the crisis to damage its interests and its bid to join NATO. On June the 28th this year, two men stood outside a mosque in the Swedish capital, Stockholm, and set fire to a Koran.
Hundreds of supporters of Tiger's Corp gathered in front of the National Assembly in the capital Niamey. Some waved Russian flags and chanted anti-French slogans, echoing a growing wave of resentment and resentment towards the former colonial power. An intensifying heat wave descended on the eastern United States, prompting warnings about the dangers and presented by the sweltering heat and humidity in the final days of a record-smashing July around the world.
Well above 100 degrees on Thursday, prompting excessive heat warnings up and down the East Coast. According to the National Weather Service, some 180 million Americans, about half the population of the United States, were under heat watches and warnings until at least Saturday.
I don't think anybody can deny the impact of climate change anymore.
U.S. President Joe Biden on Thursday announced new actions to protect U.S. workers from extreme heat, including a hazard alert notifying workers and their employers about ways to stay cool.
Even those who deny that we're in the midst of a climate crisis can't deny the impact that extreme heat is having on America.
Meanwhile, officials in major U.S. cities implored people to stay indoors, including New York City Mayor Eric Adams.
We need to be clear when we talk about because every year than any other kind of event.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visited a damaged cathedral and medical center in Odisha after Russian forces struck port in fracture in a missile attack.
Вітаю з усім. Куди? Туди? Так? Так. До перемоги. Ви воєнкоматі? Так. Вітаю зі святом. Куди? Туди? Так?
Так. До перемоги.
Якраз бойовий медик. Ви бойовий медик? Так. Вітаю зі святом. Куди? Туди? Так?
Так. До перемоги.
Israel is gathered in Tel Aviv to protest the judicial reforms being pursued by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his right-wing government to trim the powers of the country's top court. Attorneys for Donald Trump met with prosecutors investigating the former US president's attempts to overturn his 2020 election defeat. Trump said he has not been given notice if or when he might be indicted.
Attorneys for Donald Trump met on Thursday with prosecutors investigating the Republican former president's attempts to overturn his 2020 election defeat. That's according to Trump himself, the target of the special counsel investigation, who said on his Truth Social platform, quote, not been given notice if or when he might be indicted. Special counsel Jack Smith is investigating actions by Trump, the frontrunner for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination, to try and reverse his loss to Democrat Joe Biden in the 2020 election.
They're trying to steal an election. They're trying to rig an election.
It means you have to turn over the election.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved.
Officials have testified that during his final months in office, Trump pressured them with false claims of widespread voter fraud.
Hold the line! Hold the line!
Fueled by those false claims, his supporters attacked the U.S. Capitol on July 18th. He received a letter from Smith stating he was the target of the probe. It is not uncommon for defense attorneys to meet with federal prosecutors before an indictment. Trump is already the first former U.S. president to face criminal charges, which he has sought to portray as a politically motivated witch hunt. Any indictment in the election case would represent a second round of federal charges from Smith, who was appointed in November by U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland. Trump last month pleaded not guilty in Miami to a 37-count indictment charging him with unlawfully retaining classified government documents after leaving office in 2021 and obstructing justice. In that case, prosecutors have accused him of risking some of the most sensitive U.S. national security secrets. Attorneys for Donald Trump met on Thursday with prosecutors investigating the Republican former president's attempts to overturn his 2020 election defeat. That's according to Trump himself.
Russian President Vladimir Putin told African leaders he would give to them tens of thousands of tons of grain within months, despite Western sanctions.
Кукурузы и других зерновых культур, в том числе в качестве гуманитарной помощи. Наша страна в состоянии заместить украинское зерно как на коммерческое, так и в виде безвозмездной помощи наиболее нуждающимся странам Африки. Тем более, что у нас в этом году вновь ожидается рекордный урожай. Мы будем готовы уже в ближайшие месяцы, в ближайшие 3-4 месяца безвозмездно предоставить Буркина-Фасо, Зимбабве, Мали, Сомали, Центральноафриканской Республики, Эритрее по 25-50 тысяч тонн зерна. Обеспечим и бесплатную доставку этой продукции потребителям. Кукурузы и других зерновых культур, в том числе в качестве гуманитарной помощи. Наша страна в состоянии заместить украинское зерно как на коммерческое, так и в виде безвозмездной помощи наиболее нуждающимся странам Африки. Тем более, что у нас в этом году вновь ожидается рекордный урожай. Мы будем готовы уже в ближайшие месяцы, в ближайшие 3-4 месяца безвозмездно предоставить Буркина-Фасо, Зимбабве, Мали, Сомали, Центральноафриканской Республики, Эритрее по 25-50 тысяч тонн зерна. Обеспечим и бесплатную доставку этой продукции потребителям.
French President Emmanuel Macron and Papua New Guinea Prime Minister James Marap attended a singing ceremony for agreements between the two countries in the capital Port Moresby.
The European Commission, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade of the Government of Australia was with respect to climate change.
Darcy Piana, the vice governor of the southern Brazilian state of Paraná, visits the site of the sea whale agro-industrial company where 8 people were killed and 11 injured in a series of silo explosions. Australian police officers pull over a man allegedly driving a ride on lawnmower whilst drunk, has seen in their body cam footage. According to police, the man was intercepted by highway patrol around 1 a.m. on Saturday while driving a wrong way down Ann Street in the Queensland town of Lingham under the influence of alcohol.
What are you doing? Roadside on a ride-on lawnmower, 17 horsepower, red beast. How much alcohol you had to drink tonight? Not at 1 o'clock in the morning. them
Oh.
and not drunk.
Whack it on.
Never require a specimen of breath for a breath test
Go
as a
on,
breath
whack it
testing
on.
device. Like continues
Name it.
directly till I say stop.
Go
Big
on.
deep breath and commence blowing. No, you got to blow. Big deep breath and commence blowing. Stop. You got him that time. No, you're not going anywhere.
Big
Righto.
job.
You're now detained.
An overloaded passenger boat capsized in a Philippine lake near the capital Manila, killing at least 26 people on board. The accident happened hours after Typhoon Doksuri swept out the northern Philippines. Chinese and Russian officials shoot shoulder to shoulder with Kim Jong-un as they reviewed North Korea's latest nuclear-capable missiles and new attack drones at a military parade in Pyongyang, North Korean state media showed.
값비싸고 무겁고 숭엄한 바로 그 위대한 승리 끊임없이 강화 발전시켰던 올 수는 더욱 없었던 승리 역사에게 쉽게 쟁취할 수 없지만
발걸음을 함께하고 있습니다.
주체적 혁명무력 건설이 거의 틀어지고 정치 사상 강분화에 값비싸고 무겁고 숭엄한 바로 그 위대한 승리 끊임없이 강화 발전시켰던 올 수는 더욱 없었던 승리.
Due to a one-letter error in the domain name report, the UK has unintentionally been sending sensitive material to Mali, a country that is allied with Russia, unintentionally sending emails to Mali that contain classified material are British officials. The domain name was incorrectly spelled by officials as when it should we have been. Africa-Russia conference, Wagner commander Evgeny Prigozhin was seen in St. Petersburg. He was photographed shaking hands with Central African Republic Ambassador Freddy Manpoka Dimitrisiri, who apparently runs Wagner's operations in car, shared the photograph on Facebook.
Thank you. The Republican Party used to always support the military. But today, they're undermining the military. The senior senator from Alabama, who claims to support our troops, is now blocking more than 300 military operations with his extreme political agenda. Like General C.Q. Brown, F-16 pilot and wing commander, the first African-American to lead any branch of the armed service, to be the next chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That's who I've nominated. He's waiting. Admiral Lee. This partisan freeze is already harming military readiness.
Right, these are from World News Updates and keep watching CVR English.